Good morning. I'd like to call the meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone to the August meeting of the Knoxville Historic Zoning Commission. This meeting is broadcast on several TV stations, so please remember to speak clearly and directly into the microphones. Dallas, will you call the roll, please?
Yes, for the record, the Knox County Historic Zoning Commission has no business and will not meet this month. So for the City of Knoxville, Commissioner Blackburn,
Present.
Commissioner Eason, Commissioner Bradley, Commissioner Fox,
Here.
Commissioner Hearns,
Here.
Commissioner Mitchell, Commissioner Rendazzo,
Here.
Commissioner Tillman,
Here.
Commissioner Webster. That's 5 present, sir.
Thank you. At this time, we'll have a swearing in of the speakers. If you wish to speak on an item, please stand now and answer with "I do" to the following affirmation. I solemnly affirm that the testimony I'm about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you. We ask that all speakers please limit their presentation to 5 minutes. We also ask that speakers please give their name and address before speaking. Please sign in at the desk by legibly printing your name and address. Appeals of any Historic Zoning Commission decisions may be made to Chancery Court within 60 days of the date of this meeting. This time we'll have approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Seconded.
Thank you. All those in favor, aye? Aye. Any nays? All right, Lindsay, you take us to the staff report.
Yep, the level 1 COAs issued since the last meeting at 1219 Luttrell Street, the removal of an asphalt shingle roofing and installation of a new roofing in kind. At 1329 Granger Avenue, it was the same project, the installation of new architectural shingle roof cladding.
All right, thank you, Lindsay. All right, our first case this morning is in Edgewood Park City. It's at 1730 Jefferson Avenue, and it's case 5J24HZ.
All right, so this is the proposed, I'm gonna just go ahead and make sure my screen's shared here, sorry. Okay. So this is a postponement from the May 2024 meeting. This is the proposed removal of the existing vinyl siding and the installation of new vinyl siding. As we discussed, this one was postponed at the May 2024 meeting to allow the applicant the opportunity to provide more information on the existing conditions of the vinyl siding below. And so since that meeting, they have provided photographs showing sections of the vinyl siding lifted. I'll get back to those. lifted to show the wood siding below. It is difficult to discern the exact location of those photos, but we have been provided with the building elevations. The applicant has also provided an inspection report assessing the condition of the vinyl siding that is in the application packet. So as far as it's possible to see, the photos of the rear and the left side elevations do show visible wood siding. These photos also show an aluminum house wrap product. On some of the boards have large holes that are filled with caulk. Field review also shows the initial removal of a large section of vinyl siding on the house's facade below the windows, with intact wood siding below. On this section of the facade, the corner boards and the trim in the gable field are the original wood. The house does have a turret-shaped addition. It was a front porch on the left facade that's been enclosed with vinyl siding to create additional space. It most likely does not have wood siding below the vinyl there. Both the adopted and the approved, but not yet formally adopted design guidelines for Edgewood Park City encourage duplicating original siding. The older guidelines note that replacement siding shall duplicate the original, and the new guidelines note that existing vinyl may be replaced in kind as long as no other architectural detailing is covered or removed. While there's not a significant increase in evidence of the woodlap siding's condition, its presence or its absence, there is woodlap siding on at least 3 elevations. The existing guidelines do recommend replicating original siding, and the new design guidelines don't support vinyl if woodlap siding is present. The new guidelines also do note that smooth finished fiber cement board may be utilized as a replacement for wood only when it's deteriorated beyond repair. And then the following guideline about vinyl notes that vinyl may be replaced in kind as long as no further architectural detailing is covered or removed. So the commission and the neighborhood should weigh in on alternate routes if desired. Based on the design guidelines, the staff recommendation is to approve the removal of the vinyl siding and deny the installation of new vinyl siding, and staff would recommend installation of woodlap siding to reflect the existing and the exposure pattern and installation.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant present?
They're on.
Yes,
Yes. Hi, would you like to speak?
sure. My name is Jen Otero. I'm at the 1730 Jefferson Avenue, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37917. I'm just following up on our last meeting, and I got a home inspection to look at the wood siding underneath, and then I also have another contractor that talks about the condition of it, and both those parties agreed that everything would probably have to be replaced. In addition to, I've had several wood specialists come out and say that it would probably be a full restoration, and I'm looking at anywhere from 80 to 100 plus thousand. Of course, they don't know until they start pulling it off, and there's also risks of asbestos and all kinds of stuff, but they don't know until they get in it. So at that point, it just sounds like a whirlwind of money, and unfortunately, I just don't have that. So that's why I was hoping that I could get the vinyl siding replaced.
Thank you, Ms. Otero. Is the neighborhood representative here? Do we have any comments from the neighborhood
I
rep?
don't have any additional comments.
Okay, all right. With that, I'll open the floor to the board for questions for the applicant.
Oh, can I just say one more thing? I'm
Sure,
sorry.
sure.
I invited one of the contractors here because he's going to know far more than I do. So some of the questions I'm just going to direct to him if that's okay.
Okay, sure, yeah. All right. Comments, questions, motions?
Well, I thought we were waiting on
Oh, no, she just said she had her, as I understood it, her contractor standing by to answer any questions that we have. I'm sorry.
Yes, that is Gordon Perez.
Okay, yeah, no, go.
Can you remind us of the comments from the neighborhood last time?
David wasn't here in person. I don't have them in writing in front of me.
Okay.
I think, if I can recall correctly, the gist of the comments last time was that there had not been enough investigatory review of what was beneath the vinyl siding. I think David had some comments on how wood siding can be patched in and repaired, and then they had also provided this image of a section of it removed. So I think the case then was not enough vinyl siding had been removed to make any sort of determination, and then there was this section on the front that he referred to.
I have a question for the applicant and/or the contractor, if they know. The inspection report indicates that the house has a spray foam insulation.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, do you know if it's a closed or open cell?
We do not. One of the big issues that we're seeing from our end is, there has been holes cut every 16 inches in between rafters to install some form of insulation. If indeed it is a closed cell insulation, if there were repairs or replacement to be made to the original cladding, it is going to damage that insulation when we pull the cladding off of the home. That would put the applicant at some, a significant change order if we are replacing siding with, removing the existing siding and replacing, and then all of a sudden now we're having to re-insulate the home as well. We have not torn a piece off due to that, but it's something that we would be prepared to do.
And these holes, they're 16 inches on center. They said they're at the rafter, like up by the eaves at the top of the walls?
We haven't removed all the vinyl siding. We did see it at the base level about waist high. What it appears to be is at some point in time, holes were drilled in between the studs or the wall studs, and that spray foam insulation was pushed inside those cavities to insulate the home.
Now, spray foam insulation technology is changing all the time. I may be behind the times, but in my experience, drilling holes indicates they used a blown insulation that can actually fill a cavity cell from one location. For a spray foam, you really need to expose the entire stud bay. So it sounds like what they did was they put a blown insulation in and then they filled the holes with spray foam. Could be great stuff off the shelf just to fill the hole itself.
That is correct, and we don't know the answer to that question without being more invasive and removing product from the home.
Okay. And the inspection report here also talks about damage to interior plumbing and electrical systems. Can y'all speak to that? Because that sounds a little odd to me as well.
I wasn't a part of that. I am just the contractor for the exterior work. I have
Sure.
no knowledge of anything inside the home.
No, to my understanding, what he meant by that was a possibility. It's not that there is. It's just once you start pulling stuff like that off, if it's tied in together, especially if there was spray foam, and then you pull it off, it could pull off something with it. And of course, he doesn't know because it hasn't been pulled off or tested or anything like that. But that was my understanding, is that you just don't know until you start pulling it off what's behind there or what ties into it and that kind of thing.
Okay.
Could the contractor please give his name and address for the record? I'm sorry.
Yes, my name is Jordan Perez. I represent Rescue Roofing and Exteriors, and our address is 808 Bridgewater Road.
Thank you.
If any other commissioners want to chime in on this small detail, I've never heard of removing wood siding with a spray foam to damage interior mechanical systems. I also think it's unlikely that it is a full spray foam system based on the frequency of the holes. Most likely it's a blown in insulation, which it would start to fall out. You take off a few boards and you would see it start to flow and it'd look like it's snowing outside. But I don't see that as a damage risk to the siding or any integral systems of the house.
Many of the homes in the neighborhood had the same insulation done in like 2018, 2019. There was a program by the city to help insulate the homes better for energy efficiency. And so what we've seen is people either put the plugs back into the holes in the siding, or you can replace the boards. I've done that on my own home, and the insulation does not fall out. I would advocate if you don't remove the boards and just repair and replace as needed, any damage would be minimal to the insulation.
I'm not sure when it was done, so I can't attest to when it was done.
So, and again, this is Jordan with Rescue Roofing and Exteriors here. In reading the staffing report, in a couple of different areas, it states that we can, if there is existing vinyl or aluminum siding, that it can be replaced in kind as long as no further architectural detailing is covered or removed. In reading that, it would state that we can install vinyl siding to replace the existing vinyl siding. And I understand that, it's on both sides of the coin here. I was not a part of the last meeting, but from what I was told, that as long as the profile matches, we should be okay to proceed.
Lindsay, is that a point you can clarify in the guidelines as far as the replacement in kind? I can search for it here in the report.
Sure. So the existing design guidelines adopted in 1997 say replacement siding, trim, and patterned shingles shall duplicate the original. The updated but not yet adopted design guidelines state repair and replace only as needed materials with components that match the original in material, dimension, detail, profile, and texture. And then 1C says existing vinyl or aluminum siding may be replaced in kind as long as no further architectural detailing is covered or removed. And then it says use a replacement siding that matches the profile and exposure of any original existing siding or matches what is documented to be the original.
So are we going off of the 1997 or the new guideline that has not yet been adopted?
Well, so the 1997 design guidelines are the ones that have been adopted by city council, so those are still legally the design guidelines. We've provided the later ones as a sort of additional context, as the Historic Zoning Commission has approved these, but they've not been adopted by council.
Understood. Okay.
Not for me.
So if we are in fact going off of the 1997 guidelines, we should be okay. And I understand the updated version that has not yet been adopted going back with the original. And I see quoted on the 1997 guidelines that this is a Queen Anne cottage. If that's the route that's going to be gone, I heard earlier in the meeting that there were going to be 2 other roof replacements being talked about today. Queen Anne has either a slate or a cedar shake roof. But yet we're talking about a dimensional grade shingle. So it's kind of convoluted, at what point we want to draw the line. I understand my client, wants to have a cost-effective option here, being vinyl siding. And I understand that if we're doing a full wood rehab, we're looking well over $100,000 here. So I know my client's adamant on wanting to have a vinyl siding product installed. And again, I was not part of the last meeting, but I was told that the profile of the vinyl siding that has been selected was acceptable.
I think where there may be confusion is that the guidelines say to repair and replace in kind based on the original material, not what has since been put on the home.
I also want to add a point of clarification just for the sake of this argument. We have several different neighborhoods with different sets of guidelines, and there may be different things that are allowable or specified in one neighborhood that might differ from that of another. So when you're seeing other cases that may be coming up, they may be from a different neighborhood, unrelated to what we are dealing with. And it is our role, as I've clarified previously when we reviewed this project, it is our role to review the guidelines and review the projects to see if they meet or do not meet those guidelines. And that is what we are tasked with. We understand that there is expense associated with things. We understand that that is something that you have to deal with as being a homeowner. We understand from a personal standpoint that sometimes that might cost more money than doing a different route. But our job as a board is to review, does it meet the guidelines or not?
Okay. So the house next door that was just rehabbed with James Hardy siding, James Hardy siding was manufactured in 1970s. If we're talking Queen Anne cottages, I understand both sides of the equation here, but I'm just trying to figure out where the line's going to be drawn. You know, in the staff findings, line item 4, it says replacement siding shall duplicate the original. So to me, that doesn't read that we have to go back with wood siding.
I've got a question for the owner and contractor.
Yes, sir.
As far as preserving original architectural detailing, can you describe what that looks like? Or that no further architectural detailing is covered or removed? What do we keep in here?
Sure. So in reading that, I had actually spoken to the client earlier. We could meet in the middle to where we would replace the siding with a comparable siding that matches the profile and the texture. And then the architectural details being the exterior corner molds and the cornicing at the gables, we could actually leave that alone. Now, originally, we were going to wrap that in trim coil. At request of the homeowner, but you know, if need be, we could also have that restored and painted.
What are those corner boards right now?
They are painted wood.
Painted wood?
Yes, sir.
Soffits? Are they also a painted wood?
Yes, sir.
And the window casing?
Painted wood as well.
Okay.
So we could do our siding installation without disturbing those materials, and then you know the client would have to go in and have somebody refurbish all of the trim and detail work.
Mm-hmm. And in looking at the front elevation of the house, where the multiple double hungs on the left, it doesn't look like there's any window casing visible. Do you know if there's any beneath the existing vinyl siding?
I believe that was an add-on, so I'm unsure.
Okay. Because, you know, vinyl gets a bad rap in preservation communities. I'm sure you're well aware. But
Yes,
I don't know if it's quite a double, but the right side elevation window where the wood casing is exposed is the best way to do it when combining vinyl and a historic home. It's often not. More often you see the vinyl is completely covering all window casing. So I think, and the right elevation as well, where you can see visible wood casing, that is a lot better than covering it. It's honestly rare for a historic home with vinyl siding to have that exposed. And I think it's worth noting to preserve those. And if you find more, I would encourage you to also install accordingly.
Absolutely, and we could definitely accommodate there.
I can make a motion unless any other commissioners have comments. Overall, I find this case difficult because of the replacing kind and the ability for the homeowner to repair existing siding. If this was just, repair a few pieces that were fallen, I think some neighborhoods have different percentage guidelines. We would allow them to do that. And that's also why it takes us so long to deliberate these as we're comparing. We have a couple different neighborhood guidelines in our head. But I think the idea of replacing deteriorated vinyl, it's in the overall context of the home and the history of the home, that wood siding is still going to be relatively protected, if not disturbed by new nails, by new siding, and someone later on could come and do a full possible lead remediation and wood siding restoration of this house, and approving this vinyl replacement repair wouldn't impede that. So with that, I'll make a motion to approve the application with a note that architectural detailing to be preserved, including wood casing, wood corner boards, soffit and trim.
All right, we have a motion.
second.
Thank you. We have a motion properly seconded. Any further discussion by the board? If not, all those in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed?
No.
You good, Dallas? Do you need
No.
to? You roll call? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Commissioner Blackburn,
No.
Commissioner Eason,
No.
Commissioner Bradley, Commissioner Fox,
No.
Commissioner Hearns,
No.
Commissioner Mitchell,
Yes.
Commissioner Randazzo,
No.
Commissioner Tillman,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster.
Yes.
That's 4 yes, 5 no.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Okay, do we have another motion?
I think that last motion is something that I would be more comfortable with greater neighborhood discussion. The next case we're about to see spent a while deliberating at a neighborhood meeting that was open to everyone to attend. So with that, I would like to make a motion to approve based on staff recommendation.
All right, we have a motion.
I'll second.
All right. Dallas, shall we call the roll again, please?
Commissioner Blackburn,
Yes?
Commissioner Eason,
Yes.
Commissioner Bradley,
Yes.
Commissioner Fox,
Yes.
Commissioner Hearns,
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell,
No.
Commissioner Randazzo,
Yes.
Commissioner Tillman,
No.
Commissioner Webster.
No.
That's 6 yes, 3 no.
Thank you, Dallas. That motion carries. Anything else we need to do with that? All right, we'll move to the next case then. 1635 Jefferson Avenue. It's case, 1635. It's case 7A24HZ.
Okay, this is the after-the-fact review of a roof replacement. So an asphalt shingle roof was replaced with a ribbed metal panel roof with exposed fastener. It was completed by February 2024 without permits or a COA. This case was also postponed at the July 24 meeting to allow for further discussion among the neighborhood and for any additional information to be provided by the applicant. Again, this one is after the fact. Both the adopted and the approved but not yet formally adopted guidelines for this neighborhood encourage duplicating original materials as much as possible. The older design guidelines note standing seam metal or metal shingle roof coverings as replications of the original materials. The newer design guidelines note that corrugated 5V groove or wide sheet metal products are not appropriate replacement materials. The application was postponed to allow the neighborhood additional time to discuss that metal roofing material in relation to the context, the existing and the proposed design guidelines, and overall community priorities. The neighborhood responded with a letter that's in the application packet, noting that the roof does not detract from the character of the neighborhood and should therefore be approved. And so that leads to the number 6, that the currently proposed design guidelines discourage the installed roof type. Prior to further review by the HCC and adoption by council, the guidelines should be updated to incorporate the neighborhood's preferences. So based on that additional neighborhood input and the opportunity to update these guidelines for metal roofing, staff recommends approval of 7A24HC.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant present or on the phone?
My name is Billy Price. I'm with Lightspeed Construction. Sorry, thank you, sir. My name is Billy Price. I'm with Lightspeed Construction. The applicant couldn't be here, but we are also an applicant in that. I'm here for any questions.
Okay. Your address, please?
1532 Washington Avenue.
Thank you. Okay. Do we have any neighborhood input on this?
The letter from the president of the Park Ridge Community Organization is in the application packet.
Okay. All right. With that, we'll open up the floor to questions from the board for the applicant.
I have a question for Lindsay. Can you repeat what is about metal roof types? It says standing seam metal roof, and what was the second type of metal roof?
Standing seam metal and metal shingle roof coverings.
Okay, which this is neither.
No.
I don't have any questions. I think the neighborhood's letter answers my questions. If there's no discussion, I can make a motion.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve based on staff recommendation.
Seconded.
Thank you. We have a motion. It's been properly seconded. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just have a question. So everyone agrees, including the neighborhood, that it doesn't fit within the guidelines, correct? But the neighborhood is okay with it. Is that what we're saying? But it clearly does not fit within the guidelines.
So it does not fit within the existing design guidelines, which recommend standing seam or metal shingle. The new guidelines that have been reviewed but not adopted, it also does not fit those. However, then there was some neighborhood meetings and input where and in that letter, they referenced the intent to update the design guidelines to incorporate this metal feature moving forward. So that would come back in front of the commission. Is that clear?
But basically what I'm hearing is it would not fit or be approved under the old guidelines, and it currently does not fit under the non-adopted guidelines. But the neighborhood is okay and think it won't be a distraction, so they're going to amend the new guidelines before they're adopted to include this type of roof. Okay.
And a point of clarification, the existing guidelines, the way that it's worded for roofs, it says that metal roofs are appropriate, and it doesn't specifically say, it says like standing seam, but it doesn't say it has to be standing seam. So the way the commas are put in that sentence led to a lot of confusion where people could interpret it different ways, which has resulted in, on this block alone, there's 8 of these exact same roofs, some of them which were approved.
Any other questions or comments before we call the vote? Commissioner Mitchell, are you okay? Mm-hmm. All right. Good. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay. Okay. Yes. All right, motion carries. Thank you. Next case is in 4th and Gill. It's at 730 Deary Street. It's case 8B24HZ.
Okay, this is a new primary structure fronting Deary Street. You can see the corner lot here. It's at the corner of Deary and 3rd Avenue. So this, and you can see the site plan as well. So the house is 32 feet 8 inches wide by 53 feet 8 inches deep. It's proposed to be set 24 feet from the front property line. The parking is located to the rear of the house and it's accessed from the alley. And the house features a side gable roof clad in asphalt shingles. There's a pitch of 10/12 to the front. And then as you can see on the side elevations here, it's 6/12 extending towards the rear. There's a front gable massing that projects towards the front property line. And then a front gable roof dormer with 4 adjoining single light windows and a 7-foot deep front porch recessed under the primary side gable roof line. And then a 1-story massing extending towards the rear with a 4/12 pitch shed roof and an internal garage. So the house will have an asphalt shingle roof, an exterior fiber cement lap siding, and a foundation clad in brick veneer with a brick row lock. You can see the facade here, which has a Tudor Revival sort of detail in the gable fields. And then the left elevation has an exterior brick clad chimney and bays of 1/1 double hung windows. And then the right side elevation has 4 windows in varying patterns and operation. And then the rear has a garage door and a full light secondary entry. So I'll just run through some of the findings and then we can discuss them as we move through. So the house is proposed to be set 24 feet from the front property line. The average front setback of the block is 14 feet. But the adjacent houses are 13 and 14 feet from the front property line. In order to maintain that facade line of the streetscape, the house should be moved towards the front property line. The only reason to vary from that front setback would be to preserve a mature tree that's at the front of the lot. If the applicant does not intend to maintain that front tree, then the front setback should be modified. The final site plan should also include a walkway from the front door to the sidewalk to further engage the street. In terms of style, the guidelines recommend replicating or imitating styles of older periods, and they encourage compatibility and interpretation of these styles. The house does incorporate a Tudor Revival kind of detail in these gable fields, and but the remaining architectural elements don't fit a particular style. The form is similar to a craftsman house. The windows and front shutters are somewhat colonial revival, and then the roof line is like a contemporary house, which has an irregular roof for an additional interior space, and then a rear accessed garage that's interior. So the commission should discuss the house's style. The height of the house itself is compatible with existing buildings on the street. The house incorporates multiple roof lines. So there's a gable roof dormer and a smaller massing to break up box-like massings forms into similar massings. That's a recommendation from the design guidelines. However, particularly on the side massings, these roof lines are not like, quote, like most buildings from the historic period. They present as a large massing with asymmetrical roof slopes. In terms of some of the building features, and we can talk through these, the guidelines recommend duplicating original roof slopes and pitches to make structures visually compatible with the neighborhood. The side gable roof with front gable massings is compatible with the neighborhood, but the slopes on the side elevation are not historic features. This property is a corner lot, so the full roof slope will be very visible from the side, so the roof design is not appropriate for the context. In terms of materials, guidelines recommend wood materials instead of synthetic siding, noting that fiber cement may be appropriate for new construction. That has been approved in new construction in this district. The application proposes fiber cement lap siding as an exterior cladding material. Hardy plank may be appropriate for a new house, but the final drawing should specify a smooth finish product and the exposure pattern. And then the windows are described as wood clad in the application. That may be appropriate for new construction, but final specs should be submitted for review. The front and left sides have sufficient transparency. There's none on the rear, and then there's a very irregular roof pattern on the right side. The window alignment on that right side is not compatible with the context and should be revised. And if used, the front shutters should be appropriately sized for the windows and operable. And the final design should incorporate window trim and projecting sills. So staff's recommending postponement of 8B24HC to allow the applicant the opportunity to present a revised design to the commission, addressing the front setback, trees on the property, the roof pitch, window placement, and specifications, including trim, sills, and shutters. And then the commission should also discuss the proposed style, including the Tudor revival details and the overall proportions of the porch.
Thank you, thank you, Lindsay. Pardon me. Go ahead and get a drink of water. Take this.
Is the applicant present?
Good morning. My name is Chad Taylor. I live on 11409 Municipal Center Drive.
Do you have any further comments to add to Lindsay's report?
I think the siding was referenced as needing the size and specification. They're going to be 6 1/4 Hardy laps with 5-inch exposure. The roof issue it appears to be pitch is consistent with 703 Luttrell. There are multiple pitches on 613 Luttrell as well. While the front pitch is demonstrative, it is broken up by gables, so I would like that to be considered as appropriate. The windows on the right side elevation are not visible to the street, and while they do seem asymmetrical, the windows next door, the windows to the property next door are not symmetrical as well. 819 Luttrell also has windows that lack symmetry, so I'd like that to be considered. Shutters would be removed from this drawing, as I wouldn't do shutters on this property. And then, let's see here, I'm proposing to use 1x4 trim around the windows with the ability to do Craftsman Cove trim at the top if not acceptable. That ends my comments, and then I'll field the questions, and then I'm also prepared to show any a revised drawing if necessary.
Thank you. Is the neighborhood representative here? No?
Aaron Streeter, 925 Eleanor Street, representing 4th and Gill. I think Lindsay gave a really good rundown of the project. I think the neighborhood would kind of like to back up a little bit. There's a lot of talk about the details of this building and how they don't necessarily match the guidelines, specifically, like the Tudor detailing, which doesn't exist in the neighborhood anywhere, or the way the foundation interacts with the walls or the soffits or the shutters. But fundamentally, the building doesn't match some of the more overlying guidelines about massing and form of the building and location on the lot. Lindsay mentioned the setback as not being conforming with the other houses. That is in the guidelines under maintaining the historic facade lines of the streetscape. Under scale and massing, there are 5 guidelines in our set of design guidelines, and of those 5, this building doesn't match 4 of them. Number 1 is relate the size of proportions of new structures to the scale of adjacent buildings. 2 is to break up uninteresting box-like forms into smaller varied masses like those of most buildings from the historic period. Variety of form and massing are essential to the character of the streetscape. Number 3 is that new buildings should be designed with a mix of wall areas with door and window elements in the facade like those found on the neighborhood houses. So for example, the large garage in the back of the house is an opening that doesn't exist in any sort of precedent in any building in the entire neighborhood. So concerning ourselves with the details of the building when these fundamental design decisions don't match the guidelines might be getting a little bit cart before the horse. Relate the roof forms of new buildings to those found in the area. Duplication of the existing or traditional roof shapes, pitches, and materials on new construction is one way of making new structures more visually compatible. So the neighborhood believes that this proposal violates part or all of each of these. The large box shape, the asymmetrical gable, and the windowless rear that will be visible from the street because it is a corner lot, the fixed windows, the integral garage, and the jumble of windows on the side elevations, they don't seem to the neighborhood to be making very much of an attempt to meet the guidelines. And the neighborhood would like to ask for this application to be denied, maybe denied without prejudice so that the applicant can come back with a substantially different proposal without any sort of prejudice on that. To be clear, the neighborhood does support housing, and we're not opposed to houses being put on infill lots in the neighborhood. I think everybody in the neighborhood is excited when these projects come up. We just value the guidelines. It may seem hard to believe at this point, but 25 years ago, for example, my house was condemned and had a tree growing out of the back porch roof. My neighbor's house across the street had been 4 apartments and it was condemned because there was no functional plumbing or sewer. And the guidelines have been instrumental and critical in getting the neighborhood to the point at which it is. It's been a sometimes uphill battle against absentee landlords when projects have been proposed to just do the cheapest fixes possible. That's clearly not what this is because new construction is expensive these days. But we would really like the guidelines to be followed for new projects, even if they are expensive ones. They've served us well, and we would just like for them to be upheld. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Streeter. At this time, we'll open up the floor to the board for questions and comments.
I have a question for the applicant. I had 2 questions. Did you review the guidelines on what for new construction?
I did. So a part of the application specifically specifies should be contemporary and spirit. Excuse me. It should not be imitations of buildings in the past. Rather, should represent the present time. So when I read that interpretation, I do incorporate those type of styles in the dwelling. However, bringing in the contemporary spirit of current housing is, so I did take that in consideration, but use my own interpretation in which to derive this unit.
My second question is, did you talk to the neighborhood?
I did not speak with the neighborhood. I have received a couple of phone calls from people in the neighborhood that they actually like the house plan. I prefer not to say their names because this is represented by the neighborhood behind me, and I didn't catch that individual's name, so I'll keep their names anonymous as well.
Okay, but I bet this is your first time coming before us. I bet you've seen just in the first two cases how important it is to meet with the neighborhood. Mhm.
I do have a revised drawing for consideration. At this point, you don't have it, so I can submit that at the completion of this meeting as well.
And then, did you respond earlier about the setback?
Yes, so there is a large tree that is mature in nature, and it's understood that it wants to be preserved. So I did provide I did plan to remove that tree, but after speaking with individual in the neighborhood, it would be suggested to preserve that. So I did submit to Ms. Overstreet a revised site plan that allowed for that tree to remain, be trimmed back, and have curvature around for a walkway.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
It sounds like you're talking with the neighborhood, and that's huge too, listening to the neighbor about their wishes for the lot. It's nice to see some single-family housing going in 4th and Gull. I know we've seen a lot of bigger projects. I think the neighborhood will be very favorable towards discussions. And I would also like to say with the guidelines, when they suggest things being contemporary in spirit, we've seen houses that are more like modern and contemporary than necessarily bringing in design elements that are historic, but not in the neighborhood. So you might have more flexibility than you think, and discussion with the neighborhood will help.
Okay.
I can echo what's in the report and what our neighborhood representative mentioned, but I think one of the biggest issues for me is the change in the roof slope going from 1012 to 612. You know, where the contemporary spirit meets modern production building, which is what this roof slope indicates to me. I don't know where those two enjoin, but I think that change in the roof slope severely detracts from the historic nature of this particular part of the neighborhood. Being a corner lot, it's going to be highly visible. You basically have a higher standard with this elevation than otherwise.
I do have the revision that suggests that both pitches are 812.
Okay. I think that would be a good start, and I think we could work on details later. I would highly recommend meeting with the neighborhood in an organized fashion, attending a monthly meeting or something like that. Individual outreach is good, but meeting with a neighborhood for a larger discussion would be preferable, I think.
No problem.
I'll make a motion to postpone per staff recommendation.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion. It's been properly seconded. Any further discussion from the board? If not, all those in favor? Aye? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. All right, next case is in 4th and Gill. It's at 810 Luttrell Street. It is case 8G24HZ.
Okay. This is the proposed removal of a rear chimney. It's a secondary brick chimney located on the ridge of a 1.5-story gable, roof massing on the rear of the house. So demolition of original or historic chimneys is evaluated on a case-by-case basis, depending on the condition of their chimneys, the location and design and visibility from the primary street. The chimney that's proposed to be removed is a secondary chimney. It's not visible from Luttrell Street. It's located on a lower roof slope than the rear of the house, and it does not demonstrate any notable architectural details. It's relatively small in size, so I can zoom in. So staff's recommending approval of 8G24HZ as submitted.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant present and would like to speak?
I'm speaking on behalf of the applicant. I'm Sarah Martin with Open Door Architecture, 1121 Eleanor Street. And just to add to what Lindsay said, the reason for this, which was just a blip in the application, is that the client is renovating their basement. So they have a full basement under the house, And at the back level here that you can see from the alley, towards the alley side, there is standing height space. So that back half of the basement is the most usable space. I know the Historic Zoning Commission doesn't review interior, but there's an old historic stair inside that we're kind of stacking our access below and then brings you to the back of the basement. So unfortunately, that chimney is in the middle of the space that they would like to use for the renovation, which is why the owner is considering removing it to make this basement renovation possible. Unfortunately, before this owner bought this house, the front chimney, which actually did have some architectural detail, was removed, or at least prominence on the form. So that one's missing, and I'd worried that you might be able to see this secondary chimney from the street, but after walking all around it, we noticed the only visible, or the only view of it was from the alley, and so that's why we thought it might be approvable based on recent precedent.
Thank you. Is the neighborhood, or Mr. Streeter, would you like to speak?
Aaron Streeter, representing 4th and Gilligan. The neighborhood is in support of this application. There has been precedent in the neighborhood for removing these smaller, non-visible chimneys, usually old kitchen chimneys on the back of houses when they are not character-defining features and are not visible. So this one seems definitely to meet those two criteria.
Thank you. All right, I'll open the floor up for the board discussion. Questions,
I would like to make a motion.
please?
I move that we approve based on staff recommendation.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we haven't voted yet. Hang on.
Oh, sorry. I'm just going to sign my name. Okay, stop.
All right. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Thanks again.
All right, the next one is 150 Major Reynolds Place. It's case 8E24HZ.
So this is revisions to the previous approval, including 6B22HC and 4I24HC. So the applicant is removing a rear sunroom massing, and the new sunroom will feature a Georgian design with 4 square engaged pilasters on the right side and 2 on the rear. There are 3 bays of 3 light French doors topped by full light transoms that are located within the pilasters with multi-light windows on the rear elevation. And so there's an option 1, and they've also proposed a secondary option. So the overall exterior rehab project has been reviewed by the HCC multiple times. The most recent COA was issued administratively as minor revisions to the previous COAs, including the sunroom, removal of the 1998 posts, and installation of new square columns to reflect the house, and other repair items. So investigatory demo and repair resulted in the full removal of the sunroom. The applicant proposes a new sunroom with modest Georgian details, flat pilasters, and multi-light French doors with transoms and side lights. So the sunroom underwent rehab in the late 1990s to receive new storefront windows and siding and new flooring. The age of the columns and wood trim is not known. The curved trim, the design aligns with that Victorian era, but just the design. This porch is located on a rear recessed massing, and it won't be visible from the right-of-way. It will be differentiated from the original house via a new design with clearly new materials, including new French doors, transoms, and side lights in a simple pattern that's not visible in the original house. It could be removed without effect on the primary house. And just for clarification, because the applicants had discussed, the staff recommendation doesn't really speak to the 6 light versus the 3 light. In the opinion of staff, it's doesn't have a major impact one or the other. So the recommendation is to approve 8E24HC as submitted. That includes both of those options.
Thank you. I see that the applicant is here. Would you like to speak, Mr. Pittman? Okay.
We're just here if there's any questions.
Okay.
I'm Megan Dixon. I'm the owner rep.
Okay,
At
thanks.
109 South.
Will you give us your address, please?
109 South North Shore.
Thank you. All right. Do we have any neighborhood comments? This isn't really in a neighborhood per se, so. All right, we'll open the floor up to questions or comments. Any questions for the applicant?
If there's no further discussion, I'll make a motion to approve based on staff recommendation.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion. It's been properly seconded. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Last case today is on Scenic Drive, 1209 Scenic Drive in Sequoia Hills. It is case 8F24HZ.
Okay, so this is a big project, and I'll run through some images, and then I have photos. All of this is in your application packet. So this is an exterior rehab project, but also the construction of an outbuilding. And so 2 dormers on the front roof slope currently feature low slope shed roofs. So, and I'll go to those photos here. So you can see the dormers in question here. So those dormers, the application proposes to remove them and replace with hipped roofs clad in terracotta tile. The width and placement, the walls of the dormers won't change, but the roofs are going to be revised to feature a pitch that matches the existing house. The application proposes the addition of a front porch, so you can see that here. There is a covered entry vestibule that's centered on the existing door. It's 16 feet wide by 7 feet deep. The 1-story porch will have a flat roof and an ornamental architrave that's similar to the existing house. There will be work on this right side front porch, so you can see the existing porch. It's a flat roof covered porch that will be removed and replaced with a 1-story addition here. It's a flat roof section in the same location that'll measure approximately 18 by 18. It has 3 adjoining 1/1 double hung windows. The application also includes some revision to windows and doors on the rear and side elevations, and I can run through those as necessary. And then the application includes a new secondary structure. So the garage will measure 42 feet by 26 feet, and it'll be located to the rear corner of the property. I'll show you on the site plan here. It'll be located back here. And it will have a hipped roof with a pitch and details to match the primary house, with a terracotta tile roof cladding to match the main house, and hipped roof dormers on each slope. And then 3 custom-made multi-light doors that'll be located on the south elevation of the garage. Those materials are in your application packet. There are also some exterior rehab scopes in this project, so the applicants will be removing the existing asphalt shingle roof and replacing it with a terracotta barrel tile. They will add an iron railing on the parapet wall on the 2nd level terrace, new sconces, and then a new in-ground pool and the pool pavilion. The pavilion isn't included in the scope of work right now. Full drawings will be provided at a later date. So some of the staff findings here. So this property is set on a really steep slope, and it's significantly back from Scenic Drive and Blows Ferry Road, as you can see on the site plan. So the overall project is reduced in visibility. It's specifically on the sides and the rear elevation. Overall, there are a number of exterior rehab scopes that are not covered within the NC overlay, but they are appropriate treatments for the house, including installing what they call in the guidelines new heavier roof materials like terracotta tile or slate, and the iron railing that's proposed to be installed on these parapet walls you can see called out here. The shed roof dormers to be rehabbed don't appear original to the house based on historic aerial photography, and they are most likely added around the 70s, so removal of those shed roof lines and construction of a hipped roof will be appropriate within the guidelines. The new addition on the right side of the building meets the guidelines as it's placed on the side of the building, and it uses a roof line, windows, and materials compatible with the primary context. The removal of this flat roof porch won't detract from the overall integrity of the house. The new garage will be placed towards the rear of the lot, behind the primary structure, and it has a design and materials consistent with the primary structure that's recommended within the guidelines. No additional front yard parking will be created. The final site plan and for the garage access, any new driveway elements should meet city engineering standards. Details on the exterior cladding on the garage should be submitted to staff for review. That's just a small note because it wasn't provided in these elevation drawings. In terms of removal of the windows and doors, overall these will occur on secondary elevations that are not visible from the right of way. They won't alter the facade, window and door alignment, and they use materials compatible with the design of the house. The main one here is the commission should discuss the addition of a new front porch on the facade. The guidelines recommend additions to the front of buildings are strongly discouraged because they obscure original architectural designs. And the guidelines also recommend retaining a formal entry on existing buildings. The facade is kind of the main visible element of this house, so constructing a new front porch would obscure those original entry details. And we can see those in the photos here. Although the new porch does propose to replicate that design on a new element. So staff's recommending approval of 8F 24HC, subject to the conditions that the application omit the proposed front porch addition, and then the final site plan meet city engineering standards, and the garage cladding details be provided to staff for review.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant present and would like to speak?
I'm the architect, Jonathan Miller, 5405 Holston Hills Road. Yeah, available for questions.
Anything that you would like to add to what Lindsay said?
Yeah, I think the owner desired some type of covered entry on the front. So our hope with that was to really replicate, possibly even improve the detailing on the arched pediment. It appears like it's actually it may be a cast terracotta. It's painted over quite a bit. We don't have, I don't believe, a detailed image of that. But the hope was to provide a parapeted porch that would match the scale and detailing of the two side elements, and then replicate that arched entry as well. We would like to restore the light fixtures and pull those forward to the front covering. So,
okay, thank you.
Yeah, we did bring a material for the roof sample as well. I think you said that in our hope. Yeah, so we're hoping to provide just it's a muted version of a Ludowici clay tile roof panel. So we would be using that as a replacement to the current asphalt.
Okay. Any comments from the neighborhood, Lindsay?
Should we pass it around?
So I do have comments from the neighborhood. We felt that these changes would be a huge asset to the big property. The extra window for the kitchen and the windows added to the kitchen are fine. They also say that the addition of a new front entry and updating the side room to the keeping room is fine. So they are in support of a new front porch, and they are in support of this entry on the side. The new dormers and the roof are wonderful. And they said, we have lived here for 23 years and I don't think anything has been done to it in this time. Then the neighborhood did have comments about runoff from the driveway behind the house to the 3-car garage. It's very nice. We live on the downside of the street, and it rains hard when our front yard gets flooded. So there's this house sits at the top of the big hill. If water runoff isn't dealt with while putting in the big driveway to the rear of the house, there are concerns about the neighbors to the left of the property getting a deluge of rain into their home. And so she said, I'm aware water drains can be put in to divert excess water, and just kind of brings that up as an item for them to consider in terms of site plan development and all of that.
All right, thank you. At this time, I'll open the floor up to the board for questions, comments.
Quick question.
Sure.
First of all, I know this house very well, inside and out, and like the neighborhood, I'm very excited just to see some of the changes that you guys want to make to it. I was trying to understand the front porch. So you all did not present a design with the front porch?
It's on the elevations.
Yeah. Okay, so, okay.
I would also like a little clarification. I see stoops here on left and right. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, I think obviously we have quite a bit of landscape information that we still have to complete and provide. And so the hope was that the owner was wanting to create a spot that, one, they can spend time out in the front yard. So there's some form of a terrace that will be created there. So the stoops just kind of help complete. Right now, the current entry is pretty lacking in terms of it being a very welcoming entry. So the hope of this entry is that it would be an enhancement of the architecture, an enhancement of the way the house is living for this next generation, and as well give them a nice spot out front to live and entertain.
Is the door in line with the previous door?
It is, yes.
Okay. It looks like almost a vestibule from this perspective.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know if on the side elevation, if we were able to capture that side. Is that, okay, there we go. Yeah, so the side would have an opening on it as well. So that's kind of I think some of that detailing is still to be completed, but our hope would be just to match the styling of the Italianate home and feel like it's always been there.
So it does match this dormer inspiration that we see from the 1930 picture that's in our package.
Can you state that again?
We had a picture in our package. And that's what I couldn't tell as Commissioner Tillman was saying, but now that you turned it sideways, did you guys see that in your package?
Yes, I think that image was in reference to the dormer more so than the front porch.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I see where your confusion would come from.
Lindsay, can I clarify, can I get clarity from you on one of your comments about the architectural details? Was that in regards to the dormers? Is that what that's about?
Which comment are you asking about?
Distinctive architectural features, where you talk about that?
Can you tell me the number of the comment?
It's under site design.
Oh, those are the design guidelines.
Oh, okay.
Those are the design guidelines and so what they're saying there are, they recognize this is an NC overlay, so it does not regulate maintenance of existing features. However, they're important to the architectural significance of the house. So that's where I just brought those in, because basically that one is mostly relevant to the roof replacement, because it's where they say many of the rooms have these decorative tile shingles, and they recommend that people install something like that. Or they recommend that it's just a general recommendation that people would repair or replace their terracotta or slate roofs.
I will say that knowing where this house is and being in this house in the distance, I don't have a problem with the front porch.
Nor do I. I've lived down the street about 400 yards from this house for about 21 years now. When the house was originally built, the people owned the property all the way down to the river. There's a lot of pecan trees in the front, and you can still see some of the pecan trees in the greenway now, before Blows Ferry was built. But as Commissioner Mitchell says, if you look on the site plan, the difference in the finished elevation on Blows Ferry to the top of the house is almost 70 feet. It sits way up on a piece of property that people just don't see that much. So the front porch, I don't think, is going to be an issue from a pedestrian or from a driving point of view. So I don't have any problem with that at all. Obviously, you won't be able to see the new garage from the back. I think Mr. Miller's done a good job here as usual. He just finished a project right up the same street. And if you want to go by and look at that, you'll be able to see evidence of his work and good design. So I support the front porch and the other staff recommendations.
Would the original entry details remain where they are?
Right now, our hope is we would just leave them where they're at. And then we'd really just be basically creating a sister complementary form and detail on the front entry element.
Lindsay, do you think the applicant would need to provide further detail once they've finalized this front porch design to you for approval? Because we talked about a few different things of how it could be.
Our intent would be to provide additional details still, because we still have some work that we'll need to submit to the board relating to the pool house, and as well the grading and landscape design that will be coming along here in the upcoming months.
And the other thing I'd say is that we do review the construction drawings that are submitted for permitting. So where there's something to be to be submitted on the front porch that were not in line with the drawings that the HCC reviewed and approved, we would flag that and respond accordingly.
Okay, so, yeah, I feel good about it, the concept, even though we don't have the exact stepped rails, stoop, those kind of things now. If there's no further discussion, I can make a motion to approve.
Can you clarify?
What are you approving?
We can approve the application, sorry.
Per staff recommendation?
Yes.
But that includes.
Staff recommendation includes,
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Casey.
the staff recommendation includes omission of the front porch addition, so.
Okay.
It sounds like his motion was just to approve the application.
Approve the application with staff recommendations 2 and 3. Final site plan to meet city engineering standards, garage cladding details to be provided to staff for review.
Okay. Who seconded that?
I did, and I second that motion.
All right. Okay. All right, we have a motion that's been properly seconded. All those in favor, or any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, and if there's no further business or anything, we will adjourn.